Oh,
Oh, finally!
oh, what is that? Oh, no! It's probably something you can craft. I'm pretty sure there's a deterministic way to craft. Oh my god. Another one. Last map. Last fucking map.
Oh!
Oh my. Oh.
We got
Wait.
something. Apothecary.
Oh, that's what it was. Oh, 2 in 1 day. 2 in 1 day. I fucking called it. Bro,
Hey guys, it's Cash here again. So a lot of people have been asking for my solo setup for my Tornado Shot MFer, so I thought I'd make a little quick video on it. I've made a high budget and a low budget guide. High budget is quite high budget, but it's just kind of what you're aiming for. You don't have to get everything exactly like I have. So I guess let's go over the items first. First we've got a spine bow. Bow attacks fire 2 additional arrows, and then it's got about 828 PDPS. This is a bow that I crafted myself. I can make a guide on how to craft this later, but if you want something that's good like this, I mean, you just look it up on trade, look for a high fizz damage bow with 2 additional arrows. And I mean, obviously attack speed and crit chance is good as well, but that's kind of the main thing that you'll be looking for the high budget. Then we've got a quiver, bow attacks fire additional arrow, attack speed, crit multi. Then we've got our lion pelt, which is actually quite important. This has mana reservation costs of attacks on the implicit, and then the affixes have mana reservation again, res that I needed to cap, which it's quite a bit overcapped, so it's not really necessary. The +2 minion skill gems was just an X slam, and then we've got some life. But the implicits themselves are very important. The reduced mana cost of skills or of attacks, and the reservation efficiency. And then obviously you want the tornado shot files, an additional secondary projectile for the enchant. For the armor, I went with an astral plate. I actually would recommend for this to go a armor base or even an armor ES base, because you don't really get a whole lot of ES, but you tend to get a little bit more armor than ES, and I think that armor overall is just better than ES, or sorry, evasion. Then we've got Sadima's Touch with Quant and LE weakness on hit. The LE weakness on hit is quite important because it does give you lots of damage. Like if you see here, it goes from 1 mil to 1.28. So 240k damage added, which is quite a bit. Then Goldworm like normal. Eyes of the Great Wolf with Quant. You can also use the Ascetic, but then you have to use a rare or a normal and a magic item. And I just think that since we're farming Apothecary cards, we want Quant a lot more than Rarity, because Rarity doesn't matter when you're farming cards. Then we've got 2 Ventors here. One's a little higher res than the other. Both of these are going to be reasonably expensive, but again, I would mostly care about the quantity more so than the rarity. I just happen to get these ones. We've got Headhunter like normal. And then Divination Distillate. This is something that you always want to run. And I'll show you how the kind of the tech works with it to keep it up almost all the time. Progenesis is a super nice QOL flask that gives you an insane amount of EHP, because 25% life loss is taken over 4 seconds, and it just, when you get hit with those hard hits, it helps, and you don't get one shot as often. And then on top of that, Chaos Res, which is huge because we're lacking that in this build. Then we've got a Silver Flask, which actually this needs to be changed to Diamond Flask, because we have Onslaught from somewhere else. Quicksilver Flask with mana cost, reduced mana cost, and the reduced mana cost is super important. You really need that on this build, because if you don't have it, then your mana cost is quite high. Gold Flask is just a filler. You can put really whatever else you want. So, I mean, for the most part, with Magic Find, you're carried by Headhunter. This will make you a lot more tankier and make you do a lot more damage. Then we've got a Watcher's Eye with crit while affected by hatred, and life while affected by vitality. The most important mod, honestly, is the life gained on hit. The hatred is just nice to have. Then for our large clusters, we want Arcing Shot, Feel the Fight, and the last one doesn't really matter because you're just taking the 2 anyways. Feel the Fight, this is to leech mana, and then we've got another one up here with Feed the Fury instead to leech life. So you have a nice amount of life and mana leech. Then we've got here one medium cluster with Blast Freeze and Storm Rider. Gives you a lot of damage and freezes you inflict spread to other enemies, which is really nice to have. And then just one of our jewels is going to be a life jewel with attack speed and corrupted blood. Just anything really works for that. I would recommend the life at least and attack speed if you can. This is like a 50C jewel. Then we've got one mana reservation cluster with a 35% increased effect. You need this to be able to fit all of your auras in and still have unreserved mana remaining to cast your Sniper's Mark and Immortal Call. Then we've got 2 repeater streamlined medium clusters and a massive Thread of Hope, so we can get a bunch of nodes here. And then a Lethal Pride and Split Personality. This Lethal Pride, I believe, isn't too crazy. This one was 7 div on trade. It gives you 1, 2, 3, 4 double damage nodes. And they're on, you know, reasonable nodes. If you need help finding a timeless jewel, I'm going to be making a video on that, or you can just look on YouTube. I'm sure somebody will show how to use this Find Timeless Jewel, because it'll really help, and a lot of times you can snipe them for super cheap. So yeah, that's about it for the items. For our skills, we've got Tornado Shot with Trinity, increased criticals, awaken elemental damage with attacks, Fork, and Inspiration. Keep note that you do 100% need Anomalous. So 100% you need Anomalous because you need the physical converted to a random element, and that's how Trinity works with this build. So 100% you need to get Anomalous Tornado Shot, and that also syncs with this mastery here, which is 40% of physical damage converted to cold. So you have 100% of your damage converted to elemental, and yeah, that's how Trinity works. So you do need Anomalous. Even if you have to buy 2020, it's still better than running a 2120 regular because you need the convert. Then we got Sniper's Mark on hit. That's pretty normal. Anomalous, I don't think you need Anomalous. You can probably run default with this setup. And then Immortal Call to cast when damage taken. Make sure that you're not linking. So these are both in my gloves, but they're a 2-link and a 2-link. So you don't want them to all be linked together. The mana cost will be too high, and it'll try to cast Sniper's Mark on when damage is taken. So you just don't want that to happen. In our boots, we've got just Flame Dash, Herald of Ice, Item Rarity, and Onslaught. So you get Onslaught almost all the time from this, and then Item Rarity for your Herald of Ice pops. Then we've got Arrogance with Vitality, Precision. Precision I have at level 20, or you can have level 21 if you have the unreserved mana for it. And Vitality, you don't need level 20. You can have whatever level really. Just kind of scale it down with how much HP you want. Just make sure you're never under 50% unreserved. You do not want to be low life. And make sure that you have enough, as much as you want. Realistically, anything above 50% doesn't really matter because you're going to be at 50% majority of the time. Then we've got Blood Rage. This is used to keep our HP down, as well as obviously give you a lot of damage. You can use default, or you can use Divergent, which leeches damages life, which is like really nice, but you lose the 5% attack speed. Then for auras, this is our aura chest. We've got Herald of Purity. Anomalous is really nice because it gives you minions have a chance to taunt, so they're off of you. Sometimes it doesn't work, obviously the best all of the time. Then we've got Purity of Elements, Enlighten 4, Petrified Blood. This is default, but also Anomalous is a lot better, so I would run that. Hatred, 21 Hatred, and Dread Banner level 1. This is literally only used for the Anomalous version that nearby enemies deal 2% less damage. This is basically just a filler. You don't even have to run this. You could get a little bit more unreserved mana if you feel like you're lacking. it's really not necessary, but I just have it there just because. And then LE weakness from the gloves. So if you look at the tree here, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. There's not a whole lot of extra points that you can use. We've got the aura effect reservation nodes here. Kind of just take whatever fills in. This force of nature is really huge to have because it gives you about 12% damage, because attack penetration is massive on this build. We've got culling strike here from our marks. And yeah, I mean, this is pretty self-explanatory. Basically for this, the +1 frenzy charge is really nice. This crit multi is nice. This is used to cap your hit chance. It's not necessary to get all of them. You can probably get away with one node and do something else, but I just have them all in here. And I think on my jewel that I have, this gives some strength, which is nice as well. And then obviously these bow nodes and the increases and reductions in projectile speed apply to damage with bows, which is also a massive node that gives about 15% damage. So yeah, most of this is pretty common. This chaining range is nice to have. I mostly have it for the 5% deal double damage. But then also, if you're running fork, you really want to take this node. Projectiles have a 50% chance for additional projectile when forking. And that gives you quite a few extra forks every time you shoot. But yeah, this is the high budget build. It's quite expensive if you're going for, you know, completely everything that I have here. But this thing just shreds when you're in maps. So for the low budget build, you want to swap this item set, you want to swap the skill set, and you want to swap the tree. So for the items, I just looked up a cheaper bow. This one is multi-modded with attacks pen. It's got flat fizz, and then it looks like they hit fizz damage on it. I don't know where it went. Either way, they're not too expensive to get an additional arrow one with a reasonable amount of fizz. I would just show the filter, add physical DPS 500, and then either bow attacks file additional arrow fractured or additional arrow, and make sure it's a spine bow. Like, make sure it's a spine bow because it's the best space for fizz. But yeah, I mean, like, you can get a reasonably decent bow for pretty cheap. Ideally, obviously, you'd have higher attacks per second and crit chance, but just work with what you got at the time. Once you want something a little bit better, you can change this up to 2. And even so, you should be able to get something. Yeah, so it's like the 20 to 30 range. Realistically, this fracture alone is like 26 div. So you can, you know, keep changing the fizz up higher depending on how much you want to spend. Like, you get a nice 600 DPS bow for 33 div. It's really not too bad. Yeah, and then same thing for the quiver. Realistically, you want crit multi, you want an additional arrow, and then, you know, any added to attacks is nice. If you need to fill in some res, you can. It's kind of up to you there. Helmet, I have the same helmet because this is really not that expensive to craft. You basically just buy the base. And then for the chest, instead of a Astra plate, I went with a Assassin's Garb, mostly because you're quite a bit more strength starved on this setup due to not using the Lethal Pride. We're using Inspired Learning instead because you're not having Mage Blood. So I would recommend going with an Assassin's Garb. And again, I'll make a video on this, but basically you just awaken or orb together, attacks have crit chance, and socketed gems are supported by rarity, and then you lock your suffixes and you reforge caster and you can get additional curse. Oh, sorry, I forgot really quickly here. I forgot to go over this. You want sovereignty on your talisman on the high budget. And I think on the low budget as well. Yeah, both of them have it. Sedemus is the same. If you want 10% quant with LE weakness, it's quite expensive, but if you go down to 9 or 8, it goes down significantly from like 10 div to like 100 C. So just get a little bit less quant, get the LE weakness. It's more important than the 2% quant. Boots are the same thing for Venters. I just duped my cheaper one that I have in there. Again, just get as much as you can. Like, you don't have to be, it doesn't have to be perfect for now. And then for the belt, we went with Bisco's Leash. This is kind of a filler. You can go with whatever you want. You do obviously get quite a bit of rarity from this and 5% quant. And then you can get up to 42 strength with catalysts and a perfectly rolled implicit. But yeah, the belt is really a filler. If you need to do something like a Stygian Vise to fill in, if you feel like you're dying a lot, lacking on life, get a Stygian Vise with life, get res, armor on it, like whatever you need. Flasks are a little bit different. So here we've got Divination Distillate, which is, oh yeah, I'll explain that after. This is this is your quantity and rarity flask, and it also gives 50 to all res, which you'll have up basically all the time. Instead of Progenesis, we went with Atziri's Promise. This will still give you a lot of chaos res, and then it'll give you a little bit of extra damage as well as leech. And then we've got Dying Sun, which will help with damage as well because it'll give you 2 additional projectiles. The damage doesn't show up in PoB, but you do get more damage from it. Quicksilver Flask with reduced mana cost of skills. You obviously always want this because you need it really bad. With the increased effect, all the flasks are used when charges reach fill. You can change this one to when you hit a rare unique, or you can have it on full. I would probably just leave it on full. And then we've got a Diamond Flask with increased effect and crit strike chance. For the Watchers, we don't have the Hatred on this one, but we just have the Vitality Life on hit, which I feel like is the most important. When you get going, just keeping your HP up because you get chunked by things a lot. All the medium clusters are the same as the high investment version. This Viridian Jewel is the same. All the large clusters are the same. The only thing different here is I went with a 25% increased effect with Spiteful Presence. You can change this to any node you want instead of Spiteful Presence. There are ones for basically every aura, which will give you more mana reservation efficiency on those auras. You can look at all of these at craftofexile.com by going to clusters, small clusters, mana reservation, and then any of these. So you can read any aura that you may use, haste, etc. Will be on there, but I'm pretty sure Hatred is like the only one that you can use, and it's quite cheap. Because these are not eye level 84, they'll be a lot cheaper than if you're trying to get the 35% increased effect ones. For the jewels, basically everything's the same, other than we've got Inspired Learning. So Inspired Learning basically gives you Headhunter, but a little bit worse. It's only 20 seconds, and you only get 1 modifier from each mob. So with this, you have to have 4 notables in, which we do either way. This one here, and we've got 5 total. You can take this one off, or you can take these ones off. If you take these ones off, just keep in mind you always want to be hit capped. So looks like, yeah, so you don't want to take these ones off, but you know, you can take this one out and you'll still have the 4 notables that you need to have Inspired Learning working. And then with both of them, we've got a split personality here just because of how lacking these builds are in the strength and int department. So that's why with these medium large clusters, if you need to fill in stats, try your best to get them through the clusters first. And if that doesn't work, then you have to resort, like I still need to take an int node. We're still using the split personality. But yeah, I would just, you know, do what you can to get your stats filled. That's something where the belt might help, you know, not having to run this, and then you could run strength on a Stygian Vice or something, or int on a Stygian Vice on your belt. For skills, it's a little bit different. Most of these are the same. The only thing I swapped out was Vicious Projectiles instead of Fork, and because of that, we're not taking this Fork node because it would do literally nothing. So Vicious Projectiles is like 60C for a level 5 or something like that, so a lot cheaper than Fork, which is like 13 or so. Same, you still need Anomalous, Tornado Shot, and everything else is the same as before. Anomalous Inspiration is the best because it gives you crit, but it's not 100% necessary. It is about a 1.6% damage increase, but anyways, for this one, you might want to take Here, let me make sure that I have everything set. Low budget, low budget, low budget. Yeah, so you might want to take Anomalous depending on how your mana is, your unreserved mana. But yeah, you want Cyber's Mark on hit. Then we want Immortal Call, cast when damage taken, both level 1. You can't go much higher because of the strength requirements, as well as you want this to be triggering as much as possible. And the difference between level 1 and level 20 is only 10% less physical damage, or less physical and elemental damage taken, which is obviously 10% is quite a lot, but realistically, just having level 1 and having it proc more often is a lot better. Due to how little unreserved mana you have generally, you kind of need this. You don't necessarily need it. You'll have to test to see if it'll work with it or without it. But having the Enlighten 3 on this setup is really nice to have, just to give you a little bit more unreserved mana. But we've got Herald of Ice here, Item Rarity Onslaught, same thing as before. And then in the helmet, we've got Arrogance, Vitality, Precision, and Blood Rage. Same thing as the other build. The only difference is here. If you can make it work, you can run level 20 Petrified Blood. There's really not a huge difference between the two. But just keep in mind of your strength requirement. If you can make it work, do it. If not, this is the one gem that is such high strength requirement out of everything else that you need, that if you can't get the strength, don't worry about it and just lower the level of this. So just keep that in mind. Change the level of Petrified Blood if you're lacking on strength. Don't go out of your way to, spend 10 div on getting your strength as much as you need. Just down level the Petrified Blood gem. Anomalous is the best that you can get. If that's too much, then get default, but I'm pretty sure Anomalous is very cheap as well. So yeah, we've got Herald of Purity, Anomalous. Again, this is also very cheap, so I would keep that. Enlighten 3, which is only 150C. You can message me. I have like 12 of them that I've bricked. And I'll give you one. I don't mind. Purity of Elements, Hatred, and then I just have Flame Dash because we can't fit anything else in here. So yeah, that's about everything for the builds. For the Pantheons, I know people ask this a lot. I like to go Arakali. Because we're already ailment immune through Purity of Elements, Arakali is nice rather than Brine King because it gives you less damage taken over time, which is what we die to a lot. 40% Chaos Res over damage over time, which our Chaos Res is low. I think it's 36, so that would get you basically capped. Yeah, it's just a really nice one to have. And then this one you can kind of take whatever you want, but I have Gruthkul just for the additional physical damage reduction taken for every hit. And then for your relic, I would recommend, obviously you can't really pick, but just keep adding in. If you get any relics and they seem decent, add them into here. I have a cold exposure on hit. Like this one's mine, which adds like quite a bit of damage. And then on top of that, if you're looking at getting an incantation on it, you should look at getting Leaf Shade. Take 50% less damage over time if you've started taking damage over time in the past second, and 100% more duration of ailments on you. This is nice for poison. Since we're elemental ailment immune, it's nice for poison, bleeding, corrupted blood if you're not corrupted blood immune. But this is just a really nice node to have. You can pick anything else really that you want, but I believe that this is one of the best nodes for survivability. So to go over quickly the how you have Divination Distill it up at all time, what we're doing is we're running Petrified Blood, and how Petrified Blood works is life recovery other than Flask cannot recover life to above low life. Low life is 50% HP, so once you start casting, your life will go down because Petrified Blood makes your skills cost life as well as mana. And because of this, it'll make your life go down, and then you use Divination Distill it to get your life back up. You do not want to put quality on this because it will recover more life and you have a higher chance of not having it up. It's not meant to actually heal you. It's not meant to actually recover your mana. It's literally just meant to be up all the time because it gives you so many benefits, LE res, rarity, and quantity. So on top of that, you still might have troubles keeping your life down if you've got Headhunter or whatever and you've got a bunch of stacks. So that's why we also run Blood Rage. Blood Rage is just really nice because it gives you 20% attack speed. If you have the alternate quality, it gives you even more damage leeches life, but you do take damage over time. It also gives you a way to generate frenzy charges, which obviously give you a lot of damage as well. If you don't want to run Blood Rage, you don't have to. The other thing you can run is Corrupting Fever, because it costs Corrupting Fever, because it costs life. So you can also use this to keep your life down. Anyways, if you enjoy my content, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I also stream on Twitch almost every day at twitch.tv/Castillo in the description. And if you have any questions at all, you can ask me there or in my Discord, just message me your game. I will be recording the duo setup either today or tomorrow, so keep an eye out for that. Thanks for watching.